I often think about the statement, the curtains were blue, and I cannot help but think to myself how much I am guilty of reading into the blue myself. I've been there where I read a little too much or tried to read between the lines, and I thought I was being smart. But now when I look back, I just think that that's not a good process. Hi everyone, welcome to Chalchitra Talks. My name is Vaani, and in this episode, I actually want to propose to you a better way of reading, and I hope this will help you as you pick up your next read or as you read what you're reading at the moment. In one of our Thursday live streams, where once upon a time we used to pick up short stories or articles, we picked up a short story by Phillip K. He is the guy who's written Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, A Scanner Darkly, The Man in the High Castle, and so on. And we picked up his short story, The Eyes Have It. And it's about a guy who tells you that, I know aliens exist and this is how I know it. And his whole argument is based on the things or a piece of literature that he's come across, and he presents his idea to you and he tells you that the author is trying to tell me that there is a third person that exists, and that third person is an alien. I'll just read out a few lines to you, and the story is rather short, but it opens like this. It was quite by accident I discovered this incredible invasion of Earth by life forms from another planet. As yet, I haven't done anything about it. I can't think of anything to do. And he also tells you that he's written to the government, and they sent back on a pamphlet on the repair and maintenance of frame houses. And he says, anyhow, this whole thing is known. I'm not the first one to discover it. Maybe it's even under control. And then he starts to give you reason. He says, it was at once obvious the author knew everything, and was taking it in his stride. This line, and I tremble remembering it even now, read, his eyes slowly roved about the room. Now, when you and I read it, we don't really understand. His eyes moved from person to person. But this is just one person, and he's analyzing all the people sitting in the room, right? Presently, his eyes fastened on Julia. So his eyes came to a rest when he saw Julia, and he looked at her. Slowly, calmly, his eyes examined every inch of her. Now, for a normal person like you and I, his eyes are just taking in the vision of this woman who is Julia, and he's just observing her. Now, he adds in a few more lines, and that's when you realize. Outside the movie theater, we split up. Part of us went inside, part over to the cafe for dinner. Now, for you and I, it's just, he's talking about a group of people who decided to split up outside the theater. Some of them went to the movie theater, and some of them went to the cafe. And now he tells you what he has understood by this one line. He says, binary fission, obviously. Splitting in half and forming two entities. Probably each lower half went to the cafe, it being father, and the upper halves to the movies. I read on, hands shaking. And now you slowly begin to realize the problem this guy has. Her eyes followed him all the way down the road and across the meadow. And that's when he loses it. For us, she is just looking out for this person. He's leaving probably, and he has a meadow to cross, and she's just looking ahead of her. And she knows this guy is leaving, and she's looking at him. But the way the author has written it, her eyes followed him all the way down the road and across the meadow. You realize that for this guy, he thinks that her eyes actually popped out and followed him as this guy went down the road and across. And that's when he writes, I rushed from the garage and back inside the warm house. I had had enough of the thing. I want to hear no more about it. Let them come on. Let them invade the earth. I don't want to get mixed up in it. I have absolutely no stomach for it. And that's when you realize perhaps this guy read a little too much into the story. And this is one of my favorite short stories, The Eyes Have It by Phillip K. Especially how Phillip K. has treated this whole reading too literally into things. And that's what you're supposed to do when you read sci-fi. And it was actually a remark as well on how people consume science fiction. But the story in question, The Eyes Have It by Phillip K. teaches you so much about literary criticism. Now, from all the people that I've met, I've realized there are two main processes of reading literature. One is when people actually want to memorize whatever they read because the whole text is so beautiful, and I'm guilty of it as well. And it limits you because you read everything with the thought of taking notes in mind. Let me just remember it in case I don't forget it. Because you just want to memorize the facts in cases of non-fiction, or you just want to take in every beautiful line that's written there. And the second process of reading something is mostly because we want to comment on it, critique it in a way. And both of these processes have a lot of limitations. When you memorize something, you are not exactly taking in what the author is presenting to you. You're not giving it any thought. You're just taking it in without any question. And when you're critiquing it, you're just trying to find the problems with the text, or you're just trying to find the, oh, this works for me, this does not. These moments for yourself. And at points when I think you read, or when you agree 100% with a book, and that happens with a lot of people where they're just mesmerized by the writer and their writing. When you agree 100% with how a book is presented to you, there is something wrong inherently. I mean, of course, it's good for validation because a lot of us read books to get validated, to get validation on our thoughts or ideas, etc., or to learn, which is great. But sometimes we need to understand that the text is just not about the details. And it's also about forming a perspective. When you pick up a book, you have certain expectation of it in your head. And when you're done reading it, there are times when the book doesn't meet your expectations. And you are right when you blame the author for it or the book for it, for not giving you the ride that you wanted. But you must understand that the whole process of reading, when you walk into it, should not be about walking away with a certain thing. When you walk in with open mind, you know that you'll learn a lot more and you'll add a lot more to your perspective. It might lead you somewhere south, or it might just add on to things that you've had in your mind. Because the whole idea of consuming art, I believe, is to incorporate a perspective, to add things that actually value you or help you better sustain yourself as you navigate this world. So why should you read if you're not A, supposed to memorize what is there or take everything at face value and learn, or B, you're not even supposed to critique it? You must remember that when you pick up something to read, in addition to your course books and textbooks and other research material, you're also reading to add to your perspective. Reading must give you joy, and that's why you should read. I personally read because I want to add on to my perspective. That's one, of course. But I also read because I want to get a lot more empathy out of it. I want to know how to make people around me more comfortable, or how to give them enough space. And that is one of the many reasons why I read. And at this point, I also want to recommend to you a book. It's A Velocity of Being by Maria Popova, and I've already spoken so much about it, but there's a letter in the book. The whole book is actually a collection of letters to readers, to young readers around the world, and why they should read. And there's a particular letter in the book which goes, "Dear reader, we wouldn't need books quite so much if everyone around us understood us well. But they don't. Even those who love us get us wrong. They tell us who we are but miss things out. They claim to know what we need but forget to ask us properly first. They can't understand what we feel. And sometimes we are unable to tell them because we don't really understand it ourselves." That's where books come in. They explain us to ourselves and to others and make us feel less strange, less isolated, and less alone. We might have lots of good friends, but even with the best friends in the world, there are things that no one quite gets. That's the moment to turn to books. They are friends waiting for us anytime we want them. And they will always speak honestly to us about what really matters. They are the perfect cure for loneliness. They can be our very closest friends. And this is one of my favorite letters because it actually tells you what your takeaway from reading should be. Now, I'm not saying that if you read because you want to add on to your knowledge, or if you want to memorize facts, or if you want to just judge a book, do not read. That can be your source of inspiration. But how should you read, or how should you navigate so that you enjoy the whole process of reading? I think this is one of those. There are certain filters that we have while we go into the process of reading or when we pick up a book. And one of the filters that I've seen people have is whether this is right or whether this is wrong. And I think when you learn or when you try to decide what is right or what is wrong in a book, you actually are painting a whole canvas for yourself, which is limiting you in so many ways that you don't even realize. How do you know what is right or what is wrong for this universe that the author has built? Or how do you know what is right or wrong in the first place? So that's a debate for another day. Who are you to define the components of this universe? These components that are different for different people. A scene that you think shouldn't have been in the book in the first place is a scene that probably made someone else cry. Or probably just added a lot more worth to someone. And therefore, I feel a better filter would be what matters to you in this book and what does not. And a lot many times when people read something, they have this filter of whether this is right or wrong. And I think that's absolutely the worst way to go about reading. With all due respect, who are you to decide what is right or wrong in the text? Who are you to define the components of this universe that somebody else has created? These components differ altogether for different people. Something that you think was unnecessary information probably added a lot more worth to somebody else. By setting a filter of right or wrong, you build a whole canvas and paint it with limitations for yourself. And I think a better question would be, what is that one thing that's right about this, or that makes me feel that this is the right thing, or what makes you believe in it? And I think a better filter than right or wrong at this point would be what matters to you and what does not. And this actually sums up why you should read and what you should read. Does the context or does the text of this book matter to you? Do you think it's relevant to you? If yes, if you want to get more information about it, read on. Because the whole idea of reading is to filter content and absorb what you need. And that's how you enjoy the process of reading. And this book that I was actually talking about, A Velocity of Being, Letters to a Young Reader by Maria Popova, is a book that I think added a lot more for me in that perspective, because there are people that share with you things that you should read, how you should read, and why you should read in the first place. And this whole journey of reading is different for everyone. We need our own validation, yes. But a right way to go about it is not to seek validation from anywhere else. Your validation should be that if at the end of the day, when you're done reading or when you close the book, do you feel that it has added a little more to your understanding of a certain something or not? And that's how you should decide what to read and how to read it. So this was my recommendation for this episode. I hope this will help you read a lot better, and I will be back again with another recommendation for you in my next episode. And before I go, I want to talk to you about two things. One, if you like our work, do support us, and you can join our YouTube community and become a patron. We have 3 different levels: Gladiators, Goodfellas, and Godfathers. Godfathers are at the top. And the best thing about being a Godfather is that you get to have one-on-one interactions with us. You get to see what we actually do behind the screen, and you get to see things that come in much later on the platform for everyone else. We take feedback from you. We have one-on-one sessions with each Godfather, and we actually treat them like literal godfathers. So do support us if you like our work, and this will actually help us sustain ourselves. So do become a patron and support us. And the second thing that I want to talk to you about is our networking course, which we've launched quite recently. Vaibhav worked really hard to make this course a reality. It's spread across 12 chapters, and I personally get to learn so much from Vaibhav on an everyday basis. But if you're someone who wants to learn how to build strong networks and how to sustain them, you should definitely join this course. And my personal takeaway from this course was how to make people comfortable, because that is something that I feel I lacked initially. But if you think I'm comfortable in my streams and if I'm a very nice person, it's partly because I've learned my lessons from Vaibhav, which is shared in this course. And if you're someone who wants to learn how to navigate the world of networking, do join this course. And what's an added benefit is that we regularly host one-on-one sessions with people who've taken this course, the participants, and we have feedback calls with them. We sit together and we reach a solution on personal problems of people, problems that people face in their social circle and their social skills. And we sit down and we reach a solution, and it really helps a lot of people. At least that's what people have been telling us. So do join this course and do support us if you like our work. And I will be back again with another recommendation for you in my next episode.